Well, I'll tell you one job that I got all the respect in the world was when I was a beer man.
Oh.
We were a very small distributor and we would deliver beer to just local bars. And I remember all the colleges when the beer man got there, which was me, they'd all be high-fiving, they'd be cheering me on.
They were excited.
I'd be putting kegs down in their basement. It was a great thing. But did you know this? All the stops that I stopped at, all the local bars, like there was a VFW. This was like 10, 11 in the morning, and they would have their regulars already in there drinking. They would give me a beer at every single stop.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They did. So by the 5th stop, I'm pretty buzzed, and I'm driving around in the beer truck. But guess what? Police don't stop the beer man. The beer man has free privilege. It doesn't matter. The beer man is up on a pedestal. We took a little mini vacation, and that's why we're running a little bit behind on the podcast.
Not on schedule.
But that's kind of one of the funs
of
having a podcast. You can kind of vary a little bit when you're going to film it. So we were at a restaurant having breakfast, and the waitress just kept coming over and over while we were eating, asking if we were finished so they could clear our plates.
It wasn't just the waitress. It was 4 or 5 different servers. And I really don't blame them. I think it starts at the top. So they were trained to come over as much as they could. And I get it. Busy places, you want to keep it flowing. It wasn't that busy. We weren't even near finished.
But we were in conversations, and then every time they came over, it kind of interrupted us.
Yes.
So it became a little annoying. But I get it. If the place was packed, they try to move you out quick, and I understand that. They don't want you to just linger. So they kept trying to clear our plates, and we kept saying we weren't ready yet. And one of the people that was sitting, your brother, was actually sitting with us, and he was spooning food into his mouth while they were trying to pull the plate away. Of course he's not finished. He's still eating.
But they want to reach over and grab your plate to start cleaning up.
Yes, I have a way to solve this problem.
Okay.
Every table should have a little flag on, and while you're eating, the flag is laying down. When everyone has finished their meal, you just lift the flag up, and that signals to them, come get our plates.
Brilliant.
Isn't that a great idea?
It is.
And because of that, even when they come, I don't like it when they come and just clear one plate, because then it puts pressure on the person eating. I better hurry up and finish.
What if they forget to put the flag up?
That could happen. But I think enough people probably feel the way we do, that it gets annoying when people keep trying to clear your plate.
Interrupting.
But on the subject of interrupting, we were out last week and there was a group of people and I was in a conversation with a couple people. And one of the people in that conversation, who just happened to be your brother again, is he the only one we go out with?
Uncle Buck, he's famous.
He must be the only one we go out with, because it always seems like these incidents happen with him. But he let me know that I was interrupting a lot in the conversation, which I'm happy he did, but I didn't know I was doing that.
You're not normally an interrupter.
No.
I feel like you're always patient and you're listening, a lot like my dad. But when he brought that to our attention, I did start to observe, and I'm thinking, because I interrupt all the time, there's no doubt. But you know what? He may have helped you a little bit.
I have a tendency, and I'll tell you why I do it. And I guarantee you this is the reason everybody interrupts in a conversation. I don't want to forget what I'm going to say next.
Which means you're not listening to the person.
You're right. I'm probably
And I
not.
do it constantly.
And then you've always said...
It's such a bad habit.
When you say I'm a good listener, actually what I'm really good at is daydreaming while in a conversation.
Daydream, believer. It's true. You can think of 80 things going on.
Yeah.
I need my screenplay, this, that, and someone's talking, and you're smiling, and as Uncle Buck would say, you'd say, right?
No, I'll give a token head nod.
And everyone thinks, my gosh, what a great listener.
I'm not always listening. So now anyone that hears this, the next time they go out, they're going to be like, Gary, are you listening?
Oh,
but
they will test you.
I am going to make a conscious effort not to interrupt.
Do you get bored? Because sometimes I get bored, and that's why I move a conversation. Or is it just... you're not interested?
I think I get bored.
Okay.
I think I get bored pretty quickly in conversations. And I don't know why I do, but again, my mind is always thinking of other things. So maybe I should just not talk to anyone.
That may solve the problem.
But now there's other reason people interrupt.
There's the narcissist.
Yes, that's
They
when
want to talk
interrupt.
about themselves. Are you ever in a conversation and you're talking about an experience that you've had or your kids have, and all of a sudden, before even acknowledging what you say, they start to say, well, when my daughter or when I did this, and then the whole conversation goes to them.
Yes.
You never even come back to what you were originally talking about.
No, you're right. And then in couples too, in relationships, how do we listen to each other? Because I know there's sometimes when I zone you out and you'll ask me to do something. And then 2 seconds later, I'll be like, what was that you wanted me to do?
You're good at zoning out.
I
That's
do.
why it works for us.
It does. But that's the thing in relationships. So like we go on walks, and on those walks, there's 3 main categories that you make sure we don't talk about.
This
which is
helps
interesting.
peace, and we may have mentioned it before.
Yeah.
We do not talk about our kids. We do not talk about our job, and we do not talk about finance.
Yeah.
If you take those 3 things out of your peaceful walks, there's a lot of positive energy that will come on that walk. And even if you don't talk the whole time, just listen to the birds. But when you do speak, do not bring those 3 topics up.
I agree. Because then when you don't have those topics, when you don't have a negative involved, it makes the conversation more interesting,
Yes.
without a doubt. So today's, we're going to try to hit on the topic of careers and jobs in a relationship, how the different spouses can handle the situations that may arise in those occasions. And one of the things is, I always look at it as, in my life, I feel like I've never had a career.
Well, I think, as again, we mentioned before, you're an artiste and you're into writing and writing books and screenplays. So the jobs never really appealed to you, as
Right.
we always hope to find a passion and learn how to make a career out of it. But I give you credit. You always faked it and acted excited like you liked it.
Well, there comes a point in time you have to make money.
Yes.
So whether you like the job or not, it comes to a point where you have to work to make the money. But I do envy those people that love their jobs, because
Yes.
I feel like I've been in jobs for 20, 30 years, but I didn't love what I was doing. So that's why I never called it a career and never cared that much if I advanced in it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when you look at that, all of our jobs, we've had numerous jobs in our lifetime, and how they affected our relationship. I feel like a lot of times the jobs that we had, you kind of suckered me into.
I was a good sucker. But when we were right out of college,
Yeah.
I think this one summer job came up. We were clowns for little kids' birthday
Yes.
parties. Well, there was Joodles, I was Noodles, and they needed a doodle. So I said, oh, I've got a guy, he can juggle, he's great with kids. And that was $20 an hour as a summer job. It was decent money out of college.
But guys can relate to this. I know it was decent money, but when you're 20 years old and you're in the prime of your life, you don't want to be a clown at little kids' parties. You don't want to be juggling in front of kids. You don't want to be face painting. But the reason I did that job is you promised me. You said, no matter what, we'll always be together. And I thought, well, if we're together, it makes it a little bit easier.
It's fun.
Well, needless to say, 2 weeks into the job, and you're like, look, I'm going with the lead clown, and we have a job. You're on your own on this one. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You send me to this house where I get there, and every vehicle in the driveway is a truck with giant wheels. Like, you could tell this was a man's
And you were a
house.
bodybuilder at the time, so you were big and buff in the clown outfit.
Yes, I probably looked ridiculous. And I get there, and it's a Sunday afternoon, and there's football on the TV. There's a room right across from the party where all the guys are drinking, and they're having a great time cheering the football games. And here I am face painting little Timmy. And it was probably I'd have to say it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life.
I bet.
Yeah. And then you always joke, don't you? You always say they threw a beer can at me or something.
Didn't that happen?
No, it didn't happen. I wish they would have thrown a beer can.
You wish they would have.
And I wish it would have knocked me out, because that's how bad I wanted to get out of that job. And there was other jobs. You were a nanny, and it was an amazing nanny job because they gave you
Yes, that was
perks.
the start of our working together.
Yes.
We were 20, and I taught preschool, and then this nanny job came up that was incredible.
That was an amazing job.
It was on the main line. The family was phenomenal. They gave me a car, a nanny allowance.
Insurance. They gave you insurance.
I had to
too.
leave because I need insurance. They gave me insurance.
Yeah.
They were incredible. So it's very tough to get out of that job to teach, which I ended up doing, teaching preschool. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to stick this one out. And you were in college, I believe, and you were around and you had time. And you're like, I want to do something. And they needed someone to go on a trip so that she could nurse in between her business trip.
So they brought me along, which
Yes,
I think,
perfect.
But and I think you offered me. You offered me out. Like,
You could have said no.
like on some toy or something. You're like, oh, he'll go with you.
You can rent him out still.
So
It was
here
fun
I am.
for a party too.
Yeah, so here I am. Picture this. Outside, she's in this office room with all these bigwigs, and they're doing their thing. And I'm outside pushing the baby with a bunch of au pairs, women. And we're all just pushing the kids around. And again, another embarrassing moment for a 20-year-old. It was tough. I'll tell you one job that I got all the respect in the world was when I was a beer man.
Oh, Another one Uncle Buck loves. I wish Gary was a beer driver again. He was the best.
He said I was my happiest then, was when I was the beer man. But think about it.
You didn't work a lot of hours, weekends, nights. It was a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday job.
Yes. Being a beer man is the greatest job because where I was a beer man on the main line, we were a very small distributor and we would deliver beer to just local bars. And I remember all the colleges, when the beer man got there, which was me, they'd all be high-fiving, they'd be cheering me on.
They were excited.
I'd be putting kegs down in their basement. It was a great thing. But did you know this? All the stops that I stopped at, all the local bars, like there was a VFW. This was like 10, 11 in the morning, and they would have their regulars already in there drinking. They would give me a beer at every single stop.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They did. They gave me a beer at everyone. So by the 5th stop, I'm pretty buzzed, and I'm driving around in the beer truck. But guess what? Police don't stop the beer man.
During the day.
No, the beer man has free privilege. It doesn't matter. The beer man is up on a pedestal. He's like the president of the United States. That's how popular the beer man could be or could maybe not be, because guess what? If the beer man's a little bit late, people get pissed off.
Yes.
But that was another one of the jobs. Oh, and then we were at a bread and cheese shop.
Yes, in Stone Harbor, New Jersey. We worked at the bread and cheese shop. We lived on top of Circle Pizza in Avalon, and I think we worked from like 4 in the morning till 11. Was so funny.
Well, I'm laughing because you were the counter. You kind of drew me into this job too. And you had a great position. You were the counter person that would just, when they came to buy bread, you would give the bread. I'm the guy in the freezer.
That's great. But it was hot. You needed that.
No,
it cooled you off. It was hot.
Freezing cold. And then I'm bringing the bread out, and then I'm the guy kneading it together too. So that job kind of stunk, but we enjoyed it for the fact that we were done by 11 or 12 every day. So then we could go out on the beach and have a good time. But that was another job I think that you got me into.
Yeah. And then we got out quick.
So in relationships, couples have different jobs, and it can affect the relationship. Things like long hours.
Yes.
What if a husband and wife, one works night shift, one works day shift, and one's always tired?
And then how do you still make time for each other? So if you're working those hours and you're on one shift and then the other one has to sleep and then the other one wants to go out and you just want to regroup because you're going to start to work. How do you make that time, whether it's a couple hours in the evening or on the weekends, maybe not prioritizing your friends first? Make your spouse number one from day one. Because when you're in your 20s, it is fun and still is to hang with your friends. But you really have to make an effort to make the time for each other.
And then, too, like we've talked about in the past, is what happens when the woman has a baby. They're usually the one that's expected to stay home with the child. Now, that's changed now.
Yeah.
Because guess what? When you're staying home with a child, you can, like you always say, you flounder.
Oh, you flounder.
You do, and that's a tough thing too.
I actually saw that in a couple of relationships where the wife was a go-getter, great worker. She had a baby, she stayed home, and their relationship started to suffer because she wasn't on her game and she just sort of didn't have enough hobbies or ambition when she was home with her child. So I think you really have to work even harder if you flip different careers.
Yeah, and what happens when one spouse likes their job and the other spouse hates their job? That makes for a bad dynamic because, one's always talking about work. Oh, this is great. And the other one might be like, this stinks. Where in our case, we were always a lot of times together. And if we hated a job, we hated it together.
We hate our jobs together and we love our jobs together. We are very lucky.
Yes. And that's always worked out. But how can you overcome that? I think that's when someone has to really step up and be supportive and say, hey, maybe, I love my job. I'm working. Maybe you need to look for something else.
Yes. Encourage your spouse.
You want them to be happy. It doesn't always come down to the money.
Oh, and we've learned that. It is great. We were in the car business for a long time, on and off, but for the bulk of our marriage. And you could make a fantastic living and some, but the hours are brutal. For a while, our only day off was Sunday. And if we didn't make that time just for us, we would not spend much time besides at work. But work is different. You're more pals. You're not husband and wife.
Right. And like you said, on those Sundays, we made them count. If we had one day off, we made that one day count. We spent it together and we shoved more in that day than, most people would put in a week. But we made it count. Now, a lot of times, husband and wives can get in a little bit of a competition too, whether at the same job or different jobs. Who makes more money? Who has the better hours? That can be a conflict too.
It's not fair. You get to do this. I do that.
Yeah.
So it's important to.
How come you get 3 weeks off and I only get 1 week vacation?
Right. So encourage each other. If you get 3 weeks off, that's fantastic. fantastic. Maybe during that time, we can do this because you're off nights. Just try to figure out how to come together as a team if you're on opposite ends.
Now, the one job that we were at the longest was in the car business, and that's when we worked together for numerous years on and off. And we were very competitive selling cars.
Competitive in a positive way.
Yes.
You know, we were always like, what do you have? What do you? And then we would say, oh, the board. I would go upstairs and look at this board, which shows how many cars we sold. And it would be like, Gary would be at 25. I'd be at 23. And I'm like, no way. He's going down. And I would figure out I need to catch him. But we always had fun with it, but we were competitive.
It really helped us compete. When we were competitive, it made us a lot more money.
It did.
And that always made us happy that we were working and doing our best and giving it our all. And it was mainly to who could beat who at selling cars.
And we enjoyed the people. We enjoyed the clientele for the most part. And I think one of the big things, too, is we learned I would never take my day off. And when I started doing that, I did find there was so much more peace. I became obsessed working, 60, 65 hours. And I needed to, go back a little bit as we aged and found more peaceful things to do. And I think to those of you that are working nonstop, if you can take your day off, if you can take your vacation day, as much as you're obsessed with making money, working, that's fantastic. But balance, and balance sooner than later.
I think the big thing, whoever's in a job, if both spouses are, it's support each other. But the most important thing is never put the career or job ahead of the relationship.
And that happens.
It happens all the time. But if I would give any advice as far as jobs and careers go, you must put your spouse first.
Agreed. And I would like to end by saying, I heard on a podcast a while back, and we are doing it, and I think we mentioned it before, if you could shift and take some time, whether you take a break and travel, take a break and do something you enjoy together, you can go back to your career, a new career. But if you take that time, you are going to be fresh. Sometimes if you wait till you retire, you're older, you don't feel like doing it. So definitely try it. And if you can't do 6 months, do 3 weeks. It's not always about the money.
Yeah, and make sure you spend that time with your spouse while you're taking that time out. If you can both do it together, it's really going to change things. We know how much it's helped us when we take special time off to be together. It really helps bond our relationship.
For sure.
So don't forget, check us out on the YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe and like us there. And we are so close to hitting another goal. We hit one on our TikTok channel, and we are getting very close to hitting another one. So please follow us on TikTok. We are looking for more followers.
When Gary met Wendy.
Thanks again for joining in with us today. And sorry the episode was a little late.
Have a great week. Mwah.